Morning, everybody. Good morning. Today is a very exciting day. Not just because it's my first competition of the year, which is terribly exciting, but also because it's my first competition vlog. For those who haven't watched my recent training videos, today Scandal is off to do a little training working equitation show, which we're really just using to get a feel on how he's coming out of the winter, because we've done quite a few changes since last season. So it'll be very, very interesting to see, and hopefully you guys will enjoy coming along too. He is just competing in the Inter B, which is the level where changes are optional, but we are going to try for the first time ever to do like as much of the changes as possible, see where he struggles and where things go better, and try and get a feel of whether he's ready to step up straight up to Inter A once the full season starts. Not too shabby looking this morning. We got a few little stable stains. Look at that tum, that's going to be the biggest stable stain. I think the head ones will be okay, they don't look too bad. We're a bit brown there, but I'm not sure how much I can do about that. Look, oh, actually, yes, it's not too bad. You always like that knee is your favourite spot to get absolutely filthy. It's absolutely your favourite spot. And look at your eyeball. On the whole, I try to do my best not to wash them during winter for obvious reasons. So anyway, I got a slightly lukewarm bucket of water and I'm just going to sponge him off as best as I can. And if he's dirty, he's dirty. That is the great joy of a training show instead of an official association show. It was forecast to be disgusting today, and I'm afraid to say that rain's now come in. Oh god, I'm hoping it's not going to be cancelled. I'm just getting in the little man who is out all by himself in the pouring rain, the poor thing. Luckily he does have friends within sight, but that doesn't make him any less miserable. Don't just watch me, come on! Come on, come in! You have some movement. That's all, you literally he gallops over every morning. Now he's stopping for a pee. Of course. In his own time. Good morning. Nice to see you. Look how bonita he is. So Lynn has made a really good course. There's tons of chance to practice changes. Like literally so many changes in here. But that is what my goal was today, was to see how his changes do in a competition environment.
She's just waiting.
Hello everybody, this is a few days later to say the least, and I've now had a lot of time to reflect on these tests. So I'm going to run you through a couple of things that I particularly noticed. I think the thing that screams out to me, and you can see that in this unsteadiness of his head and his poll, the tightness of his neck, and also in a lot of his trot work shows quite a lot of knee action without necessarily having an equal degree of engagement and activity behind. And all of that to me points towards tension, which is absolutely fine and I think very understandable under these circumstances. It is his third ever competition, and I don't think he's ever been asked to work, let alone compete, in rain this horrifically heavy. That said, I should probably know better. That trot was really, leg yield there was really, really lovely. He's got a really natural ability to open up those shoulders, and it's the Luso suppleness. It's great. Then we go into a very nice 3-loop serpentine. My main issue with the current work, aside from the tension that unfortunately means we're not terribly consistent, is the rhythm is a little bit too quick. I'd like to see that all slow down, and I would just like to see him settle a bit and that tail to be swinging a bit more and that stride open instead of be choppy. This leg yield is a little bit less consistent, unfortunately, than the other. You can really see that the initial angle fluctuated there, and then it didn't really have that sweeping big step across. And here again, we just have a little bit of tension, a little bit of miscommunication, and unfortunately, I do my old trick of losing the quarters in the halt. Similarly, that rein back was a little bit wide behind and not really sat back, which I know he can do very well, so that's fine. Now the tension, very sadly, really shows up here. Not keen at all on that head and that pole. And then you see we break a couple of times. I don't believe I was tight or anything in the hands necessarily. I think probably tight in the seat, unfortunately. But also this is just something we're going to work on and will improve with time. This is meant to be a medium walk here. Again, needs a lot more reach with the nose forward and out, and needs a bigger step, and it just needs to be slower and more settled. But that's fine. Canter transition was fairly nice. Can always be improved, but fairly nice. And then we go into our, it's an extended canter. Now in working equitation, they like you to absolutely go nuts on the extended canter. I'm not there yet with Scandal. I'm very conscious of that. So for me, it's just about asking for a little bit. And what was really lovely is last season, I could not open him up at all and bring him back to then go into my counter canter. So that's actually a big improvement on last year. Going into the counter canter, it starts off very nicely, but I want you to look at my seat. Can you see I'm kind of heavy on the left seat bone there? And that is why we had that mistake. I think one of my biggest problems with me this day, it was a very nice change by the way, was that I was relying too much on my big aids, so my reins, my legs, and far too little on my much more subtle aids like my seat bones. And as a result, when I'm meant to be keeping, basically when you change leads, you need to lighten. Some people move it forward. I prefer to think of it as lightening the new inside seat bone so that the leg has room to come through. Similarly, in counter canter, I like to think of almost squashing the, there we go again, unfortunately, almost squashing his, in this case, his left hind leg by placing greater weight on that left seat bone so that he can't bring it through and change leads. Unfortunately, I didn't really do that. I think I sort of can get away with it at training at home where I don't terribly focus on my seat bones, and Scandal has only just learnt flying changes with leg aids. That was nice, a little bit abrupt on my behind. What I need to start doing is moving away from my own reliance on the leg aids and thinking more about my seat bones so that I'm actively using them to aid his flying changes and his counter canter,
Again, a little bit abrupt, could be more smooth there, but this trot is a lot better. So yeah, I basically need to focus more on my seat bones, less on my leg aids, generally be more relaxed and more in tune with him so that he knows what the hell I'm asking for. And so that I stop having very dodgy wobbles into my halts.
Scandal. This is literally disgusting.
On to the ease of handling, and very unfortunately my mum didn't quite manage to get the slalom, which was the very first obstacle, but we didn't get our changes, unfortunately. So anyway, into the bull, and that was quite a nice pickup. I managed to miss the ring, of course. He generally could do with a little bit more activity behind, a little more sit, but it's hard because this is a long old course, and to maintain real collection we need fitness and strength, and there are places where he shouldn't be collected the whole way round. Here I did not ask correctly with my seat bones, and I had a slight counter bend actually coming around the turn, which really didn't help him bring through that left hind. Now, can you see, here I am asking for a change, and what am I doing except twisting and placing weight on the hind leg that is supposed to be coming through? I will grant you I've not done any practice really with him doing any changes one-handed. So, you know, it's both of us really weren't to expect to have to face that, so can't really be blamed for it. But nonetheless, the positional problem was still there, and that's something that's actually really brilliant about these training shows, that really shows up these little problems. I am very pleased with that jump. We lost a little bit of balance just here on landing, unfortunately, and the difficulty with this course for us today is we just made little mistakes, and in working equitation, a little mistake can cause quite a significant deflation of your score. Like, for example, the little tap of the pole there, again, is going to bring our mark down for that obstacle. That change was very nice though, and for the most part, quarters swinging aside, not a bad entry, and quite a nice, albeit not entirely consistent, rein back. I think the thing is where you can see our inexperience, for example, not quite picking up the right rein there, together as a partnership, and you know, Scandal in himself is just these little mistakes kind of stacking up. But that will improve with practice. We don't have much of a course at home either, so it doesn't help. I did really like that. That's lovely. And then I unfortunately had a muddled transition and lost the quarters. But the brilliant thing is, I know I can go home and I can now practice transitions off the track, and making sure I really keep the energy, because I think the quarters swing a lot of the time because I've not actually got him really sat and energetic under my seat. So he can't really bring himself under and stay straight. This is actually the hardest way to do the gait. It is the gait in reverse, which involves going backwards through a small gap. And look how well this horse managed that. I mean, wow, Scandal. That is his first ever time having stood in competition, and sure, we had that little glitch at the end, but that aside, that was really nice. I've seen that cause a lot of problems for a lot of people over the years. And similarly, this was a terribly spooky bridge. I mean, like, really, really spooky. And look how sweet he is. He's like, oh, I'm not sure. And I just squeeze the legs a little bit, and he's like, okay, fine, I'll give it a go. But that is Scandal for you. He is brave to the core. Now, I knew I had the double slalom coming up, which is a huge number of changes, so I just thought I would just test, make sure the buttons are working. The right to left, his good change, working really well. His left to right was a little bit slow, just to respond to that aid, but as I've said, I know now what caused that. Very nice change. The slight turn around the right hand there was a bit more pirouette-y. I need to smooth that out. But again, a nice change, tiny bit close to behind, but correct. That was a better turn there. You can't see that one. That was a very nice change though, correct again. And again, everything just kind of smoothing out now as we both get a bit more settled, and again, a bit tight, but correct. So that was all correct changes in that parallel slalom, which is pretty damn good for his first parallel slalom in competition. And that's not an easy obstacle at all. So yeah, there's some real positives, and I'm really pleased with how much I have now to take home and work on. I decided I would not bore you with a very, very slow speed course, but instead I would show you the highlights, which included me dropping the vara, which is a first-class rookie error, then having to get off, put it back in, get back on board. Yeah, that was quite a rookie error to say the least. But anyway, you make them, you live and you learn. Always put it in properly before you leave. So then once we'd done that, we'd already, lost the speed. That was all over. But I just thought, actually, having thought I'd do an ease of handling round as like a second practice in the speed, I thought I would actually just let him have a bit of fun now. Bit of a jump off turn there inside the jug. Look at the speed with which he did the gate backwards. Yeah, and then he's so much more confident over the bridge this time, which is really lovely, shows he learnt. Tiny look, but still happy and went. And then we had a nice little canter. I've not even got close to asking him for actual speed.
So I will not beat around the bush. That wasn't my finest outing. I am a little bit disappointed in how today's gone. I obviously, not a disaster by any length, and there's a lot to be taken away that's like a big improvement on last season. The fact that he's even able to do the parallel slalom with correct changes is a big improvement. I think just where I'm a little disappointed is things that I know we can do at home didn't quite work out today, like the single slalom and the 2 barrels. And in general, the changes were just a little bit sticky, especially that left to right, which we know is his weaker one anyway. But I think the thing I have to keep remembering is that if they're not rock solid, if the obstacles and the changes aren't rock solid at home, you're not going to see them rock solid at a competition either. So I shouldn't really be expecting them to go perfectly at his first show of the year. Plus, we had all that terrible weather to tackle, and it was the first, so both of us were sort of not at our most relaxed, definitely. The other thing I think that's worth me just doing is a little bit more self-reflection on how I change my own riding style and also mentality at a competition. I'm very conscious that I think I do ride very differently. I become much more, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm less settled in my seat. I'm less all over relaxed. Even though I would say I'm not too bad, even small changes can make big differences. So that's something for me to think about, and for me to think about what in particular I tend to do that can make signals a bit less clear to Scandal and all my horses. But other than that, I think there is so much to be pleased with and a lot to be looking forward to for the season ahead. And yeah, so I'm hoping onwards and upwards from here. Certainly with the score for the ease of handling. But hey, I mean, at least we're not starting at our peak for the year. That would be, I think that would be worse. Yeah. And I think the next competition for Scandal is going to be the end of March. So you guys will see that sometime in April. And we'll be keeping everything crossed, and I'll be showing you any work we do in the meantime and any changes we may make between then and now. So yes, see you in the next video.